You'll hold the glowing orb in your hands and ask it for a miracle. The house grows quiet as evening deepens into night. The children are tucked into their truckle bed, their faces smooth and peaceful in sleep. John snores softly on his pallet near the dying fire. Tom sits by the door, awake and watchful as promised, and Eliza lies beside you in the sleeping loft, her eyes open, reflecting the faint moonlight that filters through the small window. "I know what you're planning," she whispers, her voice barely audible. "I want to be there." You start to protest, to insist she stays safely in bed, but the determination in her eyes stops you. This is her future, too, her children's lives at stake. She has every right to witness what happens. All right, you concede, but the children will sleep through as they always do. She finishes, and Tom will watch. You nod, waiting another hour until John's breathing deepens into the unmistakable rhythm of deep sleep. Then, silently, you and Eliza descend the ladder from the sleeping loft. Tom looks up as you cross to the corner where your strong box sits. No words are needed. He simply nods, confirming that he'll keep watch while you do what must be done. The strong box is heavier than usual, or perhaps it's just your imagination, your fear giving it extra weight. You carry it to the table and set it down carefully. Eliza brings a single rushlight, its dim glow barely illuminating your hands as you work the simple lock. Inside, nestled among your few valuables, sits the ancient chest. It looks so ordinary, so innocuous, just a small wooden box with tarnished metal bindings. Nothing to suggest the power it contains. "Is that it?" Eliza whispers, her voice tinged with disappointment. She was expecting something more impressive, perhaps something that looked as magical as its reputed powers. "Wait," you tell her, lifting the chest from the box. The moment you raise the lid, golden light spills out, casting your shadows huge and distorted against the walls. Eliza gasps, instinctively stepping back. The orb sits in its velvet nest, pulsing gently with that strange inner radiance that seems alive somehow. "Holy Mother," Eliza breathes, making the sign of the cross. "What is it?" "I don't know," you admit. "Roman. Maybe you're older." She stares at it, transfixed by the rhythmic pulsing of the light. "And it healed you? The cow?" "I think so. I touched it last night, without really meaning to. Today, everything was different." Eliza looks from the orb to your face, her expression a mixture of wonder and fear. "And now you mean to touch it again with purpose?" You nod. "We need money enough to buy land beyond the monastery's reach, enough to start over, where the abbot can't control our lives. It's a breathtaking ambition for a tenant farmer to leap from renting to owning, from dependence to freedom in Tudor, England. Such dramatic rises in station are nearly unheard of." "How will it know what we want?" Eliza asks practically. "A good question. The orb isn't a wishing well or a fairy godmother from children's tales. It has power, clearly, but how that power is directed remains a mystery. I'll think about it clearly," you decide. "Hold a thought in my mind while I touch it." Eliza nods, though she looks unconvinced. "Be careful, Will. Please." You place the chest on the table and take a deep breath, mentally framing what you want: money to buy land, freedom from the monastery, security for your family, not greed, not wealth for its own sake, but independence, the chance to work your own soil, to keep the fruits of your labor. With this intention firmly in mind, you reach into the chest. The orb feels warm beneath your fingertips, vibrating slightly, like a living thing. The moment your skin makes contact, the the golden light intensifies, washing over your hand, your arm, spreading throughout your body, just as it did before. But this time, you don't passively receive the sensation. You actively project your need, your desire for freedom and security, picturing coins, land, a new home beyond the monastery's reach. The light grows brighter, almost blinding now. Eliza steps back further, shielding her eyes. Tom rises from his post by the door, alarm clear on his face. Something is different this time. The warmth becomes heat, not painful, but intense, coursing through your veins like liquid fire. Your vision blurs, the room around you seeming to waver and shift. For a moment, just a heartbeat, you see double, the humble interior of your farmhouse overlaid with something else, a grander space, stone walls instead of timber, a proper fireplace instead of a central hearth, glazed windows through which sunlight streams. Then it's gone, the vision fading as quickly as it appeared. The golden light recedes, drawing back into the orb. You sway on your feet, suddenly dizzy. Will. Eliza catches your arm, steadying you. Are you all right? What happened? You blink, trying to clear your still blurry vision. I saw something, a different place, a better place for us, she asks, hope edging into her voice. I think so, you reply, though you're not certain. Was it a glimpse of the future, a promise of what could be, or simply your own desires, reflected back at you through the orb's strange power? Before you can puzzle it out further, Tom hisses from the door. Someone's coming. You quickly close the chest, the golden light vanishing, and shove it back into the strong box. Eliza blows out the rushlight, plunging the room into darkness, except for the faint glow of the banked fire. Through the small window, you can see torchlight approaching along the track to your farm. Multiple torches moving steadily closer. At this hour, long after curfew, it can only be the monastery's men. But what do they want in the middle of the night? Get back to bed, you tell Eliza urgently. Act like you've been asleep. She nods. Hurrying to the ladder, Tom retreats to his pallet, feigning sleep. You close and lock the strong box, returning it to its corner. Then take up a position by the fire, as if you'd risen to check the embers. The torches reach your yard. You count 6, maybe 7 figures by their bobbing lights. A hammering comes at your door, loud enough to wake the dead, or at least to wake John, who sits up with a startled grunt. Fletcher, a voice calls. Open in the name of the abbot. You cross to the door, heart pounding, and lift the wooden bar. The door swings open to reveal the scarred man from earlier, now accompanied by 2 monks and several armed servants of the monastery. Master Fletcher, the scarred man says, with false politeness, the abbot requires your presence immediately. At this hour, you protest. My family will remain here under guard, he interrupts. The abbot's business cannot wait until morning. One of the monks steps forward. Brother Thomas, his thin face ghoulish in the torchlight. There have been occurrences, he says, studying your face carefully. Lights seen above your farm, strange phenomena reported by neighboring tenants. Your blood runs cold. The orb's light must have been visible from outside. Brighter this second time. Bright enough to be noticed despite the shuttered windows. I saw nothing. You lie. We've all been asleep these past hours. Brother Thomas's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Indeed. Then you won't mind accompanying us to explain that to the abbot himself. It's not a request. The armed men make that clear, their hands resting meaningfully on sword hilts. Let me get my cloak, you say, playing for time to think. No need, the scarred man says. The matter is urgent. Come as you are. Eliza appears at the ladder from the sleeping loft, her face a mask of concern, barely visible in the dim light. What's happening? She asks, though her eyes tell you she already knows. The abbot wishes to speak with your husband, Brother Thomas tells her, his tone almost gentle. He will return by morning. God willing, God willing. The implied threat hangs in the air between you. I'll be back soon, you tell Eliza, trying to sound more confident than you feel. Tom knows what needs doing around the farm. She nods, understanding your hidden message. Tom knows about the orb, about the chest. If you don't return, he'll know to help her hide it. Perhaps take it to Father Stephen. God be with you, she says. As the men lead you outside into the bitter night, no horses offered. You're expected to walk the 2 miles to the monastery, surrounded by mounted men carrying torches. The journey passes in tense silence, your mind racing with possibilities, none of them good. What do they know? What have they seen? Has someone betrayed you? Or did the orb's light simply attract attention like a beacon in the dark countryside? The monastery looms against the night sky, its stone walls and towers, black silhouettes against the star-filled darkness. Unlike your humble farmhouse, the monastery has glass windows, hundreds of them, and several still glow with candlelight despite the late hour. You're led not to the church or the abbot's residence, but to a small plain building near the outer wall. Inside, a single room contains only a table, 2 chairs, and a crucifix on the wall. One chair is occupied by the abbot himself, his bulk draped in a fur-lined robe, his fingers glittering with rings, despite the vow of poverty his order supposedly upholds. Fletcher, he acknowledges as you're brought before him. Thank you for coming at this inconvenient hour, as if you had a choice, but you bow respectfully, keeping your expression neutral. How may I serve you, Father Abbot? He studies you for a long moment, his small eyes nearly lost in the fleshy folds of his face. Interesting phenomena have been reported near your farm these past 2 nights, he says. Finally, lights of unusual color and intensity, animals behaving strangely, even plants growing out of season. Your heart skips. They've noticed the apple tree's unseasonable bud. I've seen nothing unusual, Father, you reply, the lie bitter on your tongue. No. The abbot raises his eyebrows. Brother Thomas observed a chicken laying 3 eggs in one day. Most unusual, wouldn't you agree? So, they've been watching more closely than you realized, observing the small miracles the orb has produced around your farm. God works in mysterious ways, you offer, falling back on the standard Tutter explanation for anything inexplicable. Indeed he does. The abbot agrees silky, but so does the devil, the accusation, for that's what it is. However ablated, hangs in the air between you. Witchcraft, demonic influence, crimes punishable by death. I'm a God-fearing Christian, you say, forcing your voice to remain steady. My family attends Mass faithfully. We pay our tithes. Yes, yes. The abbot waves a dismissive hand. Your piety is not in question. Your discoveries, however, are another matter. So they know about the orb, or suspect at least. But how much do they know? How specific is their information? I'm a simple farmer, you say carefully. I discover turnips and stones in my fields. Nothing more. The abbot's smile is cold. Come now, Fletcher. We both know that's not true. Roman artifacts have been found in this region before. Items of unusual properties. You say nothing, neither confirming nor denying. Such items, the abbot continues, are dangerous in the wrong hands. They contain powers that simple folk cannot comprehend or control. Powers that rightfully belong under the church's guidance. Again, you remain silent. Any response seems dangerous. The abbot sigh, as if disappointed by your lack of cooperation. Brother Thomas, he calls, and the thin monk steps forward from the shadows. Show him. Brother Thomas produces a small cloth bundle from within his robes. Unwrapping it carefully, he reveals a fragment of what appears to be crystal or glass, a curved piece that might once have been part of a sphere, an orb, broken, dulled, its power clearly long gone, but unmistakably similar to the one hidden in your strong box. This was found 60 years ago, the abbot explains, in a field not 5 miles from your farm. The tenant who discovered it attempted to use its power for personal gain. He did not understand what he was dealing with. What happened to him, you ask? Though you suspect you already know. He disappeared. The abbot replies simply, along with his family. The orb was found broken, its power spent. Only this fragment remains. Is it a true story or a fabrication meant to frighten you into confession? Impossible to tell. But the fragment looks genuine enough, and it matches Father Stephen's tales of farmers who found orbs and then vanished. If someone were to find such an item today, the abbot continues, watching your face closely, the church would naturally take possession of it for safety, but the finder would be generously rewarded. A bribe then, or a trap? Perhaps both. How generously, you ask? Playing along while your mind races ahead, searching for a way out of this dangerous conversation. The abbot smiles, sensing weakness. Land, perhaps a freehold farm beyond the monastery's current holdings. Freedom from tithes for a decade, a considerable sum of money, everything you want, everything you asked the orb for, offered freely. The temptation is powerful, but can you trust the abbot to keep such promises once the orb is in his possession? A generous offer, you say, non-committally. If someone had found such an item, indeed, the abbot's smile fades. But my generosity has limits, Fletcher, as does my patience. The threat is clear now. Cooperate and be rewarded. Resist and face the consequences. Accusations of witchcraft, perhaps, or simply eviction from your farm in the depths of winter. That could be a death sentence for your family. I need time to consider, you say, playing for any advantage, to pray for guidance. The abbot studies you, then nods slightly. Very well, until tomorrow. My men will escort you home now and return at midday for your answer. He leans forward, his voice hardening. Choose wisely, Fletcher, for your family's sake. The journey back to your farm passes in a blur, your mind too full of fears and calculations to notice the cold or the silent men surrounding you. By the time you reach your door, dawn is breaking, the eastern sky lightening to pale gray. Eliza is waiting, her face tight with worry. The children still sleep, but Tom and John are up, pretending to go about normal morning chores, while casting anxious glances your way. What happened? Eliza asks the moment the monastery men are gone, their torches receding down the track. You tell her everything. The abbot's accusations, the fragment of a broken orb, the offer of land and money in exchange for surrendering your discovery. Can we trust him? She asks when you finish. No, you reply without hesitation. Once he has the orb, any promises he's made will be forgotten. Or worse, he'll accuse us of witchcraft anyway to ensure our silence. Tom joins you at the table, his weathered face grave. Then what? They'll be back at midday. If you refuse to give it up, he doesn't need to finish. The consequences of defying the abbot are all too clear. We need to hide it somewhere they'll never look, Eliza suggests. Or what? She meets your gaze steadily. Or we use it again now, with both of us touching it. Ask for what we really need, not just money, but immediate escape. A way out. It's a desperate plan, but you're running out of options. The orb has already shown it responds to deliberate intent. Perhaps with both of you focusing your will, its power might provide some solution you haven't yet imagined. It's worth trying, you decide, but the children should be part of it too. If we're asking for escape, we need to be clear it's for all of us. Eliza nods, going to wake Agnes and Edward. They come down the ladder, sleepy and confused, but obediently gather at the table. As instructed, we're going to pray together, you tell them, a half-truth that will protect them from the knowledge of what you're really doing. For God's guidance in a difficult time, Tom positions himself by the door again, keeping watch. John, sensing that something significant is happening, but not privy to the full truth, busies himself with feeding the fire. You retrieve the strong box, unlock it, and remove the ancient chest. The children's eyes widen as you open it, the golden light spilling out to illuminate your small family gathered around the table. It's beautiful, Agnes whispers, reaching toward the glowing orb. Don't touch, you caution, catching her hand. Not yet. First, we all need to think very clearly about what we want, about being safe together, somewhere the monastery can't reach us. Edward nods solemnly, too young to fully understand, but willing to play along with what he perceives as a game or a special prayer. Now, you say, looking at Eliza, we'll all hold hands, and when I count to 3, Mama and I will touch the orb together, while you two keep thinking about us all being safe. The children nod, taking the ritual seriously in the way that young ones often do, sensing the gravity in their parents' manner without fully comprehending its cause. 1, you count, heart pounding. 2, riders coming. Tom hisses from the door. Fast. Your first instinct is to close the chest, hide the orb away again. But if the monastery men are already returning hours ahead of the agreed time, it means the abbot has lost patience. They're coming to search your farm to take the orb by force if necessary. There's no more time for caution. 3, you say, and grasp the orb firmly with your right hand, while Eliza does the same with her left. The golden light explodes outward, far brighter than before, filling the small room with radiance, so intense it seems to penetrate your very being. The heat rushes through you again, but stronger this time, almost unbearable. Your vision blurs, then doubles as it did before, the familiar surroundings of your home overlaid with somewhere else, somewhere stone-walled and sunlit. This time, though, the double vision doesn't fade. Instead, the stone-walled place becomes more solid, more real, while your farmhouse seems to grow transparent, like morning mist burning away in sunshine. Will Eliza's voice sounds distant, frightened. What's happening? You try to answer, but find you can't speak. The light grows brighter still, pulsing in rhythm with your heartbeat, with Eliza's, with the children's. 4 beats slightly out of sync, gradually aligning into one single powerful throb. Through the window, you see the monastery riders entering your yard, Brother Thomas at their head, his thin face contorted with some strong emotion. They dismount, running toward your door. Too late. The farmhouse has nearly faded completely now. The stone-walled place, almost fully real around you. The last thing you see of your old life is the door bursting open, Brother Thomas's outstretched hand reaching toward the chest, his mouth open in a silent shout of denial or triumph. Then everything shifts. The light flares one final time, so bright you're forced to close your eyes against its intensity. When you open them again, the farmhouse is gone. So are the monastery men. You stand with Eliza and the children in a sunlit room with stone walls, a proper fireplace, and glazed windows through which warm summer light streams. The orb lies on a polished wooden table between you. Its light now, just a gentle glow, pulsing slower, fainter, as if tired from its exertion. Papa, Agnes's voice trembles with confusion and fear. Where are we? You look around, trying to make sense of your surroundings. The room is larger than your entire farmhouse, well furnished with carved chairs, woven tapestries on the walls, a proper wooden floor beneath your feet, instead of packed earth. Through the windows, you can see rolling countryside, fields of ripening wheat, orchards heavy with fruit. In the distance, a small village nestles in a valley. Its church tower, a familiar landmark. That's our village, you realize with shock. St. Mary's Church. But the countryside around it is different, more prosperous, more cultivated. The forest that once dominated the northern approach, now reduced to a small woodland. It can't be, Eliza says, moving to the window. Everything's changed. The fields, the trees, the season, you add, noting the summer fullness of the landscape that was winter barren just moments ago. It's not December anymore. As if responding to your observation, the orb's glow fades further, becoming barely perceptible. In the bright room, a noise from outside draws your attention. The sound of horses approaching. For a moment, fear grips you again. Have the monastery men somehow followed you to this strange place? But the riders who appear on the track leading to this stone house are not monks or their servants. They're ordinary farmers. By their dress, come to consult with who? Master Fletcher. One calls up to the window. Have you decided about the new mill? The guild is meeting this afternoon to vote. They're addressing you as if you belong here, as if this place is yours. Eliza joins you at the window, her face a mixture of wonder and confusion. Will, she whispers, I think we're home. But how? Where? When? She shakes her head, as lost as you are. Then her gaze falls on a wooden plaque mounted beside the fireplace. The kind wealthy merchants or landowners might display to commemorate the building of their home, Fletcher House. It reads, established 1503. 1503. You read aloud, struggling to make sense of it. But it's 1500 now. Is it, Eliza asks softly, or has the orb sent us forward, given us what we asked for? Safety, freedom from the monastery, land of our own. But 3 years later than we expected, the orb pulses once more, very faintly, then goes dark, not broken, like the fragment the abbot showed you, but dormant, its power spent, at least for now. As you stand there struggling to comprehend what has happened, memories begin to surface in your mind, memories of events you haven't yet experienced, building this house, buying this land, the monastery's power, broken not by your escape, but by the king's proclamations against church landholdings. They feel like dreams at first, hazy and indistinct, but with each passing moment, they grow clearer, more solid, fitting themselves into your mind as if they'd always been there. You remember the 3 years that haven't happened yet, and gradually, the confusion and fear fade, replaced by a sense of rightness, of belonging. This is indeed your home, a home your future self built after the orb's power set in motion events that would unfold over years rather than in an instant. We did it, Eliza says wonderingly, the same realization dawning in her eyes. Or we will do it. The orb didn't just transport us. It changed everything. The children adapt faster than either of you, already exploring their new surroundings with excited exclamations over toys and clothes they've never seen before, but somehow recognize as their own. Outside, The farmers wait patiently for your response about the mill, a matter of importance to you in this new life, where you're clearly a person of consequence in the community. Will be down in a moment. You call to them, surprising yourself with the confidence in your voice. Turning back to Eliza, you see her holding the now dormant orb, studying its surface with a mixture of gratitude and awe. Should we hide it? She asks, in case its power returns someday. You consider this, weighing the risks against the possibilities. The orb has given you everything you asked for, not instantly, but through changes to the course of events that allowed you to achieve these things through means that will appear natural to everyone but you. Yes, you decide somewhere safe for the future. As you take the orb from her hands, your fingers brush against its surface. For just a moment, you think you see a faint flicker of golden light deep within the crystal, a hint that its power isn't gone forever, merely resting, a promise perhaps, or a warning. Only time will tell. The summer sun hangs low in the western sky, casting long shadows across your new lands. You stand at the edge of a wheat field, your wheat field, watching as workers cut the last of the day's harvest, their backs bent with labor, sides this flashing in the golden light. They look no different from the workers you once were, yet everything has changed. 3 days have passed since the orb brought you here to this place, this time, this life. 3 days of adjustment, of memories, settling like dust after a storm, of learning who you are now, while remembering who you were then. Still getting used to it, a familiar voice asks. You turn to find Tom approaching, a clay jug of small beer in his hand. His face is the same, weathered, lined, good-humored, but his clothes are better, his bearings straighter, no longer just a farmhand. He's your steward now, overseeing the daily running of Fletcher Farm, trying to, you admit, accepting the beer with a nod of thanks. Everything feels like a dream sometimes. Then I look around, and it's all so solid, so real. Tom chuckles. You've been saying that since you bought this place last year. Can't believe it's really mine. You kept saying last year, according to the memories, slowly filling in the blank spaces in your mind. You purchased this land from Sir William Hertford's estate after he lost heavily at dice to the Duke of Suffolk. 15 acres of prime farmland, a stone house, and rights to common grazing, all for a sum that would have been impossible for a tenant farmer to amass. Except you weren't just a tenant farmer anymore. Somehow, in the 3 years the orb skipped you across, you had become a wool merchant of modest but growing wealth. How did I do it, Tom? You ask quietly, keeping your voice low, though the workers are too far away to hear. How did I go from the monastery's tenant to this? You would gesture at the field, the stone house on the hill, the small barn where your horses, plural, a luxury beyond imagining in your previous life, are stabled. Tom gives you an odd look. You've been asking such questions for 3 days now, and while he's loyal enough not to question your strange behavior, his patience has limits. You know how, he says, a hint of exasperation in his tone. The orb changed things, not all at once like we thought it would, but bit by bit. First, the monastery's sheep started dying, hundreds of them, while ours thrived. Then the king issued that proclamation, limiting church land holdings. Then Sir William needed quick money and was willing to sell cheap. He shakes his head in wonder. It all just fell into place, like the hand of God was guiding every step. The hand of God or the power of the orb. In this new reality, Tom knows about the orb, was part of its discovery, but he doesn't seem to share your experience of having jumped across 3 years in an instant. For him, Those years happened normally, one day at a time. And John, you ask another gap in your knowledge. Where is he now? At Oxford. Still, Tom replies, as if this is common knowledge. The scholarship you arranged starts term. Smart lad, always knew he had more in his head than farming. Oxford, a tenant farmer's orphaned help boy, now a university scholar, another miracle the orb has somehow engineered. Or Master Fletcher, one of the harvesters approaches, cap in hand, a young man you don't recognize, but who clearly knows you. We've finished the south field. Shall we start on the east tomorrow, or move to the barley? You hesitate, uncertain of the proper answer in this unfamiliar life. Tom smoothly intervenes. The barley? Adam, it's ready, and there's rain coming end of the week. The young man nods respectfully to you both and returns to his fellows. You give Tom a grateful look. I'd be lost without you, you admit. He smiles, the setting sun highlighting the network of wrinkles around his eyes. You've said that before too, usually after too much ale at the harvest home. As twilight deepens, you walk back toward the stone house that is now your home. Unlike your old farmhouse, with its single room and sleeping loft, this is a proper house with multiple chambers, a hall for eating and daily business, a separate kitchen, even a small solar, where you and Eliza have a real bed with a feather mattress instead of straw. The windows, real glass, not just shuttered openings, glow with the warm light of rushlights and candles. Not the single dim rushlight you could afford before, but several, and even beeswax candles for special occasions. Such luxury would have been unimaginable in your previous life. Inside, the scene is both strange and familiar. Eliza moves about the kitchen with the same efficient grace she always had, but now she directs a young maidservant instead of doing everything herself. Agnes sits at the table, practicing her letters on a slate, another luxury, as education for girls is rare in Tutter, England. Edward plays with carved wooden soldiers on the floor, more elaborate toys than the simple sticks and pebbles he once had. Papa, Edward, jumps up at your entrance, running to hug your legs. At least the children's affection is unchanged, a constant in this altered world. The harvest is going well, Eliza asks, looking up from the pot she's stirring. Something rich and savory bubbles within, a meat stew with more than just the occasional scrap of salt pork. Your new status means meat several times a week, not just on feast days. Very well, you confirm. Tom says the barley is ready too. She nods, satisfied, then gestures for the maidservant to continue stirring while she wipes her hands on her apron. Come, she says to you, there's something I need to show you. Curious, you follow her up the narrow stairs to the solar, your private chamber, where the orb now lies, hidden beneath a loose floorboard. But she doesn't stop there. Instead, she leads you to a small room, adjacent to it, one you haven't fully explored in your 3 days of adjustment. Inside, shelves line the walls holding ledgers, rolls of parchment, small cloth bags, and various boxes. A writing desk stands beneath the window, equipped with quills, ink pots, and fine vellum. Your counting room, Eliza explains, seeing your confusion, where you manage the business. The business, according to your gradually assembling memories, you are no longer just a farmer, but a wool merchant and broker. You buy fleeces from smaller farmers, arrange sales to weavers and cloth merchants, take commissions on larger transactions between monasteries and foreign buyers. I need to understand all this, you say, gesturing at the intimidating array of account books. If I'm to maintain our position, Eliza's expression softens. You will. The memories are returning, aren't they? Each day, a little more. You nod. It's true. With each passing hour, the fog of confusion lifts slightly. Names, faces, transactions, relationships. They're filtering back into your mind as if they were always there but temporarily mislaid. And for you, you ask the same. Yes, she confirms. This morning, I couldn't remember where we kept the best plates. By midday, I knew without thinking. She smiles. Wryly, though I still reach for the sleeping loft ladder. Sometimes before remembering, we have proper stairs. You both laugh, the shared joke easing some of the strangeness. This adjustment, learning to be wealthy after a lifetime of poverty, would be challenging enough without the additional complication of having arrived here through the orb's mysterious power. What of the monastery, you ask, moving to the window? From here, you can just see the distant towers of the abbey, silhouetted against the darkening sky. What happened after we left? Eliza sits at the desk, her fingers absently tracing patterns on the polished wood. From what I've pieced together, they searched the farm for days, tore up floorboards, dug up fields, found nothing, of course. She looks up at you. As far as the world knows, we simply moved away. When our teenie ended, sold our animals to another farmer, and left to seek better opportunities. And the abbot still there, though his power is much reduced. Her expression turns grimly satisfied. The king has been taxing the church heavily. Rumor says more changes are coming, perhaps even dissolution of some smaller monasteries. This aligns with your emerging memories. King Henry VIII, once a staunch defender of the Catholic Church, has been growing increasingly frustrated with papal authority. The dissolution of the monasteries, which your original timeline self could not have predicted, is indeed coming, though it won't begin in earnest for several more years. So, the orb didn't just change our fortunes, you muse. It placed us perfectly to benefit from changes already beginning to happen. Clever, isn't it? Eliza says with a small smile. No one can claim witchcraft or sorcery when our rise appears so natural. A combination of good fortune, changing politics, and your own business acumen. A knock at the door interrupts your conversation. Agnes pokes her head in, her face serious, in the way children get when entrusted with important messages. Supper's ready, she announces, and Father Stephen is here. Your heart lifts at the news. Father Stephen, the village priest, who showed you the old painting, who hinted at the orb's nature, without directly acknowledging it, is still part of your life. Then downstairs, the priest waits by the fire, his substantial form unchanged, though his robes are perhaps a little less worn than you remember. His face brightens at your appearance. Will Fletcher, he booms, his voice as hearty as ever, prosperous as always. I see God continues to bless your endeavors. You clasp his offered hand warmly. And yours, Father. You're well enough for a man of my years and appetites. He chuckles, patting his ample belly, though these new winds blowing from London make life interesting for a country priest. He's referring, you realize, to the early stirrings of the Reformation, the religious changes that will eventually transform England from a Catholic to a Protestant nation. Changes that, in your original timeline, were just rumors, but are now gathering momentum. Over supper, a meal that would have seemed a feast in your previous life, with fresh bread, meat stew, cheese, and even preserved fruits. Father Stephen regale the children with tales of saints and local folklore. But once they're sent upstairs to prepare for bed, his manner becomes more serious. I've heard interesting news from London, he says, lowering his voice. Though the servants have been dismissed for the evening, the king is considering a formal break with Rome. You and Eliza exchange glances. This is significant news, with far-reaching implications for everyone in England, especially those connected to the monasteries. When you ask, not immediately, the priest replies, but within a year or two perhaps. The queen has failed to provide a male heir, and the king's eye has wandered to that Berlin girl. He makes a face. Politics and religion make dangerous bedfellows. But there it is. And the monasteries? Eliza asks, voicing the question in both your minds. Father Stephen looks troubled. Their days are numbered, I fear. The king needs money for his wars and his court. The church's wealth tempts him greatly. He takes a deep draught of ale before continuing. Those with ties to monastery lands would be wise to diversify their interests. It's a warning, diplomatically phrased, but clear enough. Your wool business, while no longer directly dependent on the monastery as it once was, still involves transactions with church properties. If those properties are seized by the crown, contracts could be voided, debts unpaid. I've been considering expanding into cloth, you say. The words coming from some part of your mind that seems to know this new life better than you consciously do. Working with weavers directly, perhaps even setting up a small workshop. Father Stephen nods approvingly. Wise, very wise. Cloth will always be needed, regardless of who holds the land or collects the tithes. He glances around, then leans closer. And how is your other matter? The Roman artifact. So he knows about the orb in this timeline too. You choose your words carefully, secure, and quiet for now. The priest seems to understand your meaning. Good, good. Best it remains so, especially in these changing times. The church grows nervous about ancient things as the new learning spreads. What was once merely unusual might now be deemed dangerous. After Father Stephen departs, full of food and armed with a small purse of coins for his parish poor box, another sign of your changed circumstances, you and Eliza check on the sleeping children before retiring to your own chamber. The solar feels almost decadently spacious after the cramped sleeping loft of your previous life. The bed is wide enough for both of you to stretch out without touching, though habit and affection still draw you close together. It's really ours, Eliza whispers in the darkness, echoing your earlier words to Tom. All of this, not just borrowed or rented, but ours. Ours. You agree, the word still strange on your tongue. In Tudor England, true ownership is rare for common folk. Even most landowners hold their property at the pleasure of some greater lord. But according to the deed in your counting room, this land and house belong to you outright. A freehold, the most secure form of tenure possible. Do you think it will last? She asks, voicing the fear that has lurked at the edges of your mind. Or will the orb's magic fade? Will we wake tomorrow, back in the old farmhouse, with the monastery men pounding at the door? You consider this. The orb remains dormant beneath the floorboards, its golden light extinguished, or at least deeply banked. Has its power been spent completely in this massive change to your lives, or is it merely resting, capable of further miracles, or perhaps of reversing what it's done? I don't think so. You say finally, this feels permanent, as if we've truly lived these 3 years, made these changes through our own efforts, even if we don't remember all of it yet. She seems reassured, nestling closer against your side. Good. I don't want to go back. Not ever. You don't either, though. Part of you wonders about the moral implications of what's happened. Have you stolen this life from some other version of yourselves? Erased 3 years that you should have had to work through day by day? Or was this always your destiny? The orb, merely a catalyst for what would have happened anyway? Such philosophical questions have no place in the practical 2D mind. However, you push them aside, focusing instead on the immediate reality. Your family is safe, prosperous, free from the monastery's control. Whatever power brought you here, you're grateful for it. Morning brings a new routine that's both strange and increasingly familiar. Instead of rising before dawn to labor in your fields, you wake with the sun to oversee others doing that work. Breakfast is taken at a proper table, served by the same young maidservant, Mary, your recovering memory supplies, who helped in the kitchen last night. The wool merchants from Bristol arrived today. Eliza reminds you as you eat. Will you show them the new clip from Hartwell's flock? You nod, though internally you're panicking slightly. What new clip? Who is Hartwell? But even as these questions form, answers rise to meet them, memories surfacing like fish in a pond. Hartwell is a farmer to the north who produces particularly fine wool from Cotswold sheep. You bought his entire clip 3 weeks ago and have been storing it in your barn until the Bristol merchants arrive. Yes, you say with more confidence than you feel. The quality is exceptional this year. We should get a good price. Eliza smiles, clearly pleased with your response. She too is adapting to this new reality. Her practical nature embracing the improved circumstances while her keen mind catalogues the differences between then and now. After breakfast, you walk the boundaries of your property, a Tudor landowner's regular ritual. 15 acres feels vast compared to the 5 you once rented. Though it's modest by gentry standards, the land is good, well-drained, south-facing slopes for the crops, a small stream providing water, enough trees for building repairs and firewood. Workers nod respectfully as you pass. Some you recognize from your previous life, villagers who once labored alongside you for the monastery, and now work your fields for wages. Others are new faces, yet increasingly familiar, as your memories continue to align with this new reality. At the far boundary, where your land meets what was once monastery property, you find something unexpected, a small shrine set into the hollow of an ancient oak tree. A crude wooden cross, some dried flowers, a few small offerings, pebbles, feathers, a little carved figure. Been there for generations, says a voice behind you. You turn to find an old woman gathering herbs along the boundary hedge. Her face is vaguely familiar, the village-wise woman, your memory supplies, known for her knowledge of healing plants and midwifery. What is it? You ask, studying the shrine with curiosity. A crossing place, she replies cryptically, where the old world and the new meet. Some say the Romans built a temple here to gods whose names are long forgotten. You look more closely at the little shrine. Among the Christian symbols and offerings are older things, a small stone carving that might be Roman symbols, etched into the bark of the tree that resemble no alphabet. You know, is it safe? You ask, unsure how to phrase your real question. Is this place connected to the orb somehow? The old woman chuckles. Safe enough if approached with respect, dangerous to those who destroy old ways for profit. She gives you a knowing look, like some I could name with their queries and their taxes. She means the monastery. You realize in this timeline, as in your original one, the abbot's plan to quarry tenant lands has created resentment among the local people. I've no plans to disturb it, you assure her. Good. She nods approvingly. The Fletcher name is respected hereabouts, known for fair dealing and keeping to the middle path. She gathers her herbs and shuffles away, calling over her shoulder. Some paths run deeper than others' mind. Some go places a body might not expect. You watch her go, wondering if she knows more than she's saying. Does she suspect something about the orb? About your sudden rise in station? Or is she simply being cryptic in the way of old folk who enjoy mystifying their younger neighbors? Back at the house, you find visitors have arrived. Two well-dressed men with the prosperous look of successful merchants. The Bristol wool buyers right on schedule. Your steward Tom has already shown them to the barn where Hartwell's wool is stored. Master Fletcher, the older of the two, greets you. Fine clip you've got this year. Very fine indeed. Worth 17 marks per sack, I'd say, adds his companion. You know, without quite knowing how, you know that this is a low offer. The wool is worth 20 at least. 22. You counter confidently. It's the finest Cotswold clip I've seen in 3 years. The merchants exchange glances. 20. The older one offers, and we'll take the entire lot. Done. You agree, extending your hand to seal the bargain. As they count out coins from heavy purses, you marvel at how naturally you've slipped into this role of a wool broker, a role you never trained for, never apprenticed to learn, yet somehow know intimately thanks to the orb's manipulation of time and circumstance. The transaction complete, you invite the merchants to dine. Before they depart, it's both good hospitality and good business. Relationships matter in the wool trade, and a well-fed customer is more likely to return. Over dinner, conversation turns to news from London and beyond. The merchants who travel widely are valuable sources of information in a world without newspapers or rapid communication. The king's getting impatient with Rome, the older merchant confides. Word is, he's already consulting lawyers about ways to set aside the queen and the monasteries. You ask, recalling Father Stephen's warning from the previous night. The younger merchant leans forward. Thomas Cromwell has the king's ear now, and he's no friend to the church. They say he's drawing up plans for a great survey of all monastery lands and wealth. This is significant news. Thomas Cromwell, the king's chief minister, will indeed orchestrate the dissolution of the monasteries, the greatest transfer of land and wealth in English history since the Norman conquest. Properties that have belonged to the church for centuries will be seized by the crown and sold to eager buyers among the gentry and merchant classes. When will this survey begin? You ask, trying to sound merely curious rather than keenly interested. Next year, they say, or the year after. The merchant shrugs. These things move at their own pace. But change is coming, Master Fletcher. Those who prepare will prosper. Those who cling to old ways. He makes an eloquent gesture of something falling. After the merchants depart with promises to return for your autumn clip, you find yourself drawn to the small chamber where the orb lies hidden. Kneeling, you pry up the loose floorboard and lift out the ancient chest. The orb within remains dark, its golden light extinguished or deeply banked. Yet as you hold it, you fancy you can feel a faint warmth, a subtle vibration. Or perhaps it's merely your imagination, your desire for confirmation that its power remains. Did the orb somehow know about the coming dissolution? Did it place you and your family precisely at this moment in time to benefit from the massive changes about to sweep through England? The thought is both comforting and unsettling. Comforting to think your good fortune is part of some greater plan. Unsettling to consider the implications of such foreknowledge. As you carefully replace the orb in its hiding place, a shadow falls across the doorway. You look up to find Eliza watching you, her expression thoughtful. Do you ever wonder, she asks softly, if we did the right thing, using its power this way? The question echoes your own earlier doubts. I've wondered, you admit, but then I look at the children, at the security we have now, and I can't bring myself to regret it. She nods, coming to kneel beside you as you replace the floorboard. Nor can I. Yet sometimes I dream of the old farmhouse, of simpler days when our greatest worry was having enough turnips to last the winter. She smiles wryly. Strange to miss poverty, isn't it? Not poverty, you correct her gently. Simplicity. Life is more complicated now, with more to lose, she adds, giving voice to the fear that has lurked at the edges of your new prosperity. You take her hand, the same work, roughened hand you've held through 16 years of marriage, through childbirth and loss, through hunger and cold. Whatever comes, you promise we'll face it together, as we always have. As evening approaches, you stand at the window of your counting room, watching the sun sink toward the horizon. Fields that were once monastery land stretch before you, now worked by farmers who, like your former self, pay rent to a distant landlord and dream of something better. The orb has given you that something better, not through obvious magic or miraculous transformation, but through subtle shifts in circumstance that appear to outside eyes entirely natural. A series of fortunate events, good business decisions, being in the right place at the right time. Yet questions remain. Why you? Why was the orb buried in your field, waiting centuries for discovery? What power created it, and to what purpose? And perhaps most pressingly, is its work truly finished, or merely paused? As darkness falls over your new lands, your new life, these questions hang unanswered in the summer air. But for now, at least you have achieved what once seemed impossible: freedom, security, a future for your children brighter than any audit tenant farmer could reasonably hope for. Whether the orb's power proves blessing or curse in the long run remains to be seen. But tonight, as you join your family for the evening meal in a home that is truly yours, you can't help but feel profoundly grateful for its golden light and the changes it has wrought. Autumn paints the countryside in shades of gold and russet. Smoke rises from cottage chimneys, carrying the scent of burning applewood. The harvest is in. The fields lie stubbled and bare, and the first frost has silvered the meadows in the early mornings. 4 months have passed since your arrival in this new life. 4 months of adjustment, of memories filling in, of learning to be Master Fletcher rather than just Will the tenant farmer. Today is Michael's Fair, one of the most important market days in the Tudor calendar. The whole village has gathered on the green stalls and tents erected in haphazard rows, the atmosphere festive, despite the serious business being conducted. You move through the crowd with newfound confidence, no longer startled when villagers bow their heads respectfully or call you master. Your wool business has flourished through the summer months, and the purse at your belt is heavier than you once could have imagined. Papa, look. Agnes tugs at your sleeve, pointing toward a merchant selling fabrics. Green silk. Can I have some for a new kirt, please? The fact that your daughter even knows what silk is, let alone asks for it, is testament to how far you've come. In your previous life, homespun wool was the height of luxury. Perhaps you say, not committing either way. Wealth has changed many things, but your innate caution remains. Let's see what your mother thinks. Eliza stands at a nearby stall, examining a selection of spices, another luxury once far beyond your means. Now, she discusses saffron and cinnamon with the easy confidence of a woman accustomed to such purchases. Agnes wants silk, you tell her, Nodding toward the fabric merchant, Eliza considers this a small piece for trim, perhaps. Not a whole curtain. She's growing too fast. Agnes pouts, but doesn't argue. Even in your new position, Tudor children are expected to obey without question. Master Fletcher. A hearty voice booms across the green. Sir William Hertford, the minor nobleman from whom you purchased your land, approaches with the slightly unsteady gait of a man who's already visited the ale tent. Prospering as always, I see you bow slightly, less deeply than you would to a greater lord, but enough to acknowledge his higher status. Sir William, I trust you're well. Well enough, though my purse is lighter than I'd like. He laughs too loudly. Those dice still roll against me. Sir William's gambling habits are well known locally. It was his losses that forced him to sell the land you now own, a transaction that in this timeline happened over a year ago. Perhaps Providence suggests a change in pastimes you offer diplomatically. He waves a dismissive hand. Providence has nothing to do with it. Skill and luck, that's all. His blurry eyes focus on you more directly. Speaking of which, your luck has been remarkable these past years. Fletcher, from tenant to trader, in a single bound. There's something in his tone, a hint of suspicion perhaps, or simple envy that makes you uneasy. Hard work and careful investment, you reply. The explanation you've given countless times when asked about your rise in fortune. Sir William clearly isn't convinced. Strange things happen in this world. Strange discoveries. He leans closer, his breath wine-soured. I've heard tales from the monastery about Roman artifacts with unusual properties, about tenant farmers who found such things and suddenly prospered. Your blood runs cold. Has word of the orb somehow spread? Has the abbot been talking about his suspicions even after all this time? Just tales, you say, keeping your voice steady. Folk always want to believe in magical solutions rather than acknowledge the virtues of industry and thrift. Sir William studies your face, then barks a laugh. Industry and thrift? You sound like my steward. He claps you on the shoulder. Keep your secrets, Fletcher. We all have them. With that cryptic comment, he staggers away toward the ale tent. Eliza, who overheard the exchange, moves to your side. Do you think he knows something? She asks quietly. Suspects, perhaps. You reply, but he has no proof, and his reputation for drunken fancies doesn't lend credibility to any accusations he might make. Still, the encounter leaves you unsettled. If Sir William has heard rumors about the orb, others may have as well. The secret that has transformed your life may not be as secure as you believed. As the day progresses, you try to push these concerns aside and enjoy the fare. Edward rides the hobby horse, a simple wooden contraption that delights him as much as any modern carousel would delight a child. Agnes, consoled with the promise of silk trim, watches a troupe of traveling players perform a morality play on a makeshift stage. You're examining a fine leather saddle, another potential purchase that would have been unthinkable in your previous life. When Tom finds you, his expression urgent. There's a monk asking for you, he says quietly. By the church from Merton Abbey. You ask, immediately tense. Tom nods. Brother Thomas? The name sends a chill through you. Brother Thomas, the thin, intense monk who blessed your fields, who was part of the abbot's inner circle, who reached for the orb in the final moment before it transported you to this new life. Did he say what he wants? Only that he must speak with you on a matter of importance. Tom glances around to ensure no one is listening. Should I send him away? You consider this. Your instinct is to avoid any connection to your past, to the monastery that once controlled your life. But curiosity and concern win out. No, I'll speak with him. Where's Eliza? With the children watching the players. Good. Let her enjoy the performance. No need to worry her yet. You hand the saddle back to the disappointed merchant. Later, perhaps, the church stands a little apart from the fairground, its square tower casting a long shadow across the graveyard. Brother Thomas waits by the lych gate, still thin, but somehow diminished from your memory of him. His robes, once immaculate, show signs of wear, and his face has the hollow look of a man who doesn't get enough to eat. Master Fletcher, he greets you, his voice the same soft, precise tone you remember. Thank you for agreeing to see me. Brother Thomas, you don't offer your hand. What brings a monk of Merton Abbey to our humble fare? A faint smile crosses his face. Humility is a virtue you practice less visibly these days, I think. He gestures toward the church. Might we speak inside? What I have to say is not for general hearing. Wary but intrigued, you follow him into the cool dimness of the church interior. The same whitewashed walls, the same simple altar, the same painting of the Roman, with the glowing orb half hidden in the corner. Nothing has changed here, though everything has changed for you. Brother Thomas walks to the font, dipping his fingers in the holy water and crossing himself before turning back to you. You vanished, he says without preamble. You and your family the night we came for the orb. So he does know. You say nothing, waiting for him to continue. At first we thought you had simply fled, taken the orb, and run. He paces slowly before the altar, but then reports came that you were here prospering as if nothing unusual had happened, as if you had always been a wool merchant of means, never a struggling tenant. People improve their circumstances, you say non-committally. It's not unheard of. In a matter of moments, Brother Thomas raises an eyebrow. Between when I entered your farmhouse door and when I reached your table, for in that span, that heartbeat, you were gone, not fled, gone. You hadn't realized he'd witnessed the actual moment of transition. You remember his outstretched hand, his mouth open in a shout. But you assumed he arrived just as the orb's power took effect. The fact that he saw you vanish complicates matters. I'm not sure what you think you saw. You hedge. Times were chaotic then. Memory plays tricks. Does it? He steps closer. Then perhaps it's also my faulty memory that recalls a golden light brighter than the sun, a chest of ancient design, a crystalline orb. There's no point in further denial. What do you want, Brother Thomas? To drag me back to the abbot? To accuse me of witchcraft? To your surprise, he shakes his head. No, I no longer serve the abbot. This is unexpected. You've left the monastery. Not by choice. His mouth twists bitterly. I was expelled for obsession with pagan artifacts, for questioning the abbot's authority, for suggesting that perhaps the church is not the only rightful guardian of ancient powers. You study him with new interest, the same things you once hinted to me. Yes, he meets your gaze directly. I believed then, as I believe now, that certain objects of power belong not to institutions, but to those who discover them, those who can use them wisely. And the abbot disagreed. Brother Thomas laughed softly, most emphatically, especially after you vanished with the orb he coveted so desperately. He gestures around the empty church. So, here I am, cast out, seeking the only person who might understand what I've sacrificed and why, despite your caution, you feel a reluctant sympathy for the man. To lose his place in the monastery, his entire identity, his security is no small thing in Tator. England, where social position is everything. What exactly do you want from me? You ask again. Information primarily, he replies. I have studied these artifacts for years, found references in ancient texts, fragments in monastery libraries. I know there were many such orbs created in a time before memory, but I have never seen one used successfully. His eyes gleam with intellectual hunger. You have. You touched its power and lived to tell of it. I want to know everything. How it felt, what you saw, how you directed its energy. It sounds like scholarly interest rather than personal ambition, but you remain cautious. And if I tell you, what then? Then I continue my research, he says simply, with better information. Perhaps one day I find another orb. Perhaps not. He spreads his hands. I have no power to threaten you, Fletcher. No position, no authority. I'm a seeker of knowledge, nothing more. You consider his request. There's risk in sharing what you know, certainly. But there's also potential benefit in having an ally who understands the orb's nature, especially one with access to ancient texts and records you could never hope to read. I'll tell you some of it. You decide. Not all. Not today. And in return, you'll share what you learn in your research. Brother Thomas nods eagerly. A fair exchange. You spend the next hour in quiet conversation at the back of the church, describing the orb's appearance, the sensation of touching it, the way it responded to deliberate intent. You emit certain details exactly where it's hidden now, the full extent of the changes it made to your life, but provide enough to satisfy his scholarly curiosity. In return, he shares fascinating fragments of lore that the orbs were created during the fall of Atlantis, a tale you dismiss as fancy, that they respond differently to different bloodlines, more plausible given your experience, that their power waxes and wanes with certain celestial alignments, interesting if unprovable. One last question, he says as your conversation winds down. The orb's light. Does it still shine, or has it dimmed since you used its power? You hesitate, unsure how much to reveal. It's quieter, you say. Finally, not extinguished, but resting. He nods as if this confirms something. As the texts suggest, the power EBs after major workings, but returns with time, especially at certain moments, solstices, eclipses. He leans forward intently. There's an eclipse coming at U-tide, the first in 7 years. If the orb's power follows the patterns described in the ancient accounts, it may awaken. Then, this is new information, both intriguing and slightly alarming. To what purpose? Brother Thomas shrugs. That depends on you, I would think. On what you ask of it, or perhaps on what it asks of you. He rises, brushing dust from his threadbare robes. I've taken enough of your time on a fair day, but I would speak with you again after the eclipse to compare observations. You stand as well. Where can I find you if you're no longer at the Abbey? I've taken a small room at the Bellin in the village, he says, working as a scribe and tutor to support myself. Not the life I expected, but he smiles faintly. We all adapt to changing circumstances, don't we? As you walk back to the fairground, your mind churns with this new information. The orb will awaken at the eclipse. Its power will return. But to what end? Will it simply be available for use again? Or does it have its own agenda? its own purpose in bringing you to this time and place. The fair is winding down. As afternoon fades toward evening, merchants pack away unsold goods. Villagers make their way home with new purchases and full bellies. You find Eliza and the children by the May tree in the center of the green, where a few die-hard revelers still dance to the music of a piper and drummer. Where did you disappear to? Eliza asks as you join them. Agnes got her silk. She holds up a small piece of emerald green fabric that must have cost more than a month's food in your previous life. Church, you reply, not wanting to discuss Brother Thomas in front of the children. Paying respects, she reads the deeper meaning in your eyes and nods slightly. We'll talk later. The walk home takes you past fields you once worked as a tenant, now part of your expanded holdings. Farm workers, your employees now, not your peers, tip their caps as you pass. The stone house on the hill glows warm in the setting sun, smoke rising from its chimneys. Windows gleaming with the golden light of candles and fire. Such a contrast to the humble farmhouse where you once lived. Eternally cold, eternally dimly lit, where hunger was always one bad harvest away, where the monastery's shadow fell across every aspect of your existence. That night after the children are asleep and the servants dismissed, you tell Eliza about Brother Thomas's visit, about the eclipse at Utide, about the orb's power potentially returning. Do you believe him? She asks, brushing her hair before the small mirror. Another luxury of your new life. I'm not sure, you admit. Parts of his story ring true. Other parts, you shrug. He was always clever, always had his own agenda, even when serving the abbot. And now he's adrift, cast out from the only world he's known. You think of the thin monk in his worn robes, reduced to teaching village children their letters for pennies. In some ways, I pity him. Eliza sets down her brush, turning to face you. Pity is dangerous when mixed with secrets as powerful as ours. If he truly knows about the orb, he does. You confirm. He saw it the night we left, saw us vanish. She pales slightly. Then he could still destroy everything we've built. One accusation of witchcraft. I don't think that's his intention, you say. Though you can't be entirely certain, he seems more scholar than zealot now, interested in understanding the orb, not condemning its use. People change, she says pointedly, as we well know. You can't argue with that. You've changed profoundly in the 4 months since arriving in this new life, growing more confident, more commanding, more comfortable with wealth and position. Who's to say Brother Thomas hasn't undergone his own transformation from the abbot's devoted servant to something else? I'll be careful. You promise. Limit what I tell him. Watch for any sign of betrayal. Eliza nods, seemingly satisfied for now. But as you lie in bed later, sleep eludes you. The knowledge that the orb's power may return at Utide, just 6 weeks away, fills your mind with both anticipation and dread. What might you do with a second chance to use its magic? Your current life is comfortable, secure, beyond anything you could have hoped for as a tenant farmer. Do you risk it by asking for more, or simply leave the orb dormant, its power untapped? And what of Brother Thomas? Can he be trusted with the knowledge you've shared, or will he prove dangerous to everything you've built? These questions follow you into dreams that night, dreams of golden light, of ancient power, of choices with consequences that ripple across centuries. You wake before dawn, an old habit from your farming days that persists despite your changed circumstances. The house is quiet, the servants not yet risen, acting on impulse. You light a candle and make your way to the solar, to the loose floorboard where the orb lies hidden. The chest comes out easily, its ancient wood now familiar to your touch. You open it, half expecting to see the golden light already strengthening in anticipation of the coming eclipse. But the orb remains dark, or nearly so. Yet, as you watch, holding your breath, you fancy you can see the faintest pulse deep within the crystal, a heartbeat so slow and faint it's barely perceptible, but undeniably there, waiting. You whisper to the silent room. But for what? The orb, of course, provides no answer, but as you carefully replace it in its hiding place, you can't shake the feeling that it heard you, that somewhere in its crystalline depths, something is stirring, preparing, gathering strength for whatever comes next. Days pass, turning into weeks. November brings rain and wind, stripping the last leaves from the trees and turning the roads to mud. Your wool business continues to prosper. Another good sale to merchants from London, a new arrangement with weavers in Bristol. The familiar rhythm of Tudor life goes on. Work, prayer, meals, sleep each day, much like the last. But beneath this ordinary surface, changes are brewing, not just in your household, but across England. Father Stephen brings news of further tensions between king and pope, of Thomas Cromwell's growing influence, of whispered plans to investigate the wealth of abbeys and priories throughout the realm. The monasteries are nervous, he tells you one evening, warming himself by your fire after a wet ride from the village, my abbey especially. The abbot has been summoned to London twice in recent weeks. What does it mean, you ask, though you already know from your future memories what's coming? The dissolution, the greatest transfer of land and property in English history. Change, the priest says simply, for better or worse, depends on where one stands, I suppose. He gives you a meaningful look. Those once bound to monastery lands may find new opportunities, or new masters know better than the old. It's a reminder that even the dramatic changes brought by the orb exist within a larger historical context. Your rise from tenant to merchant isn't happening in isolation, but as part of sweeping transformations that will reshape England for centuries to come. 2 weeks before Christmas, before the eclipse Brother Thomas spoke of, you make a business journey to a nearby market town. It's a trip you've made many times in this new life. Your recovered memories tell you, but it feels fresh and slightly strange as you ride your own horse along the muddy winter roads. At the town's small inn, you conclude a wool deal with a merchant from the continent, a Flemish man named Hendrik, who pays good prices for your finest fleeces. Business done. You share a jug of wine, as custom demands. England changes, Rick remarks, his accent thick, but his meaning clear to few. Church power weakens, merchant power grows. He raises his cup to you. Good for men like us. Yes, perhaps you allow cautiously. Tudor England is full of spies and informers. Even casual remarks about church or crown can be dangerous if reported to the wrong ears. In Antwerp, Hendrik continues undeterred. We hear strange tales from English countryside, objects of power found in ancient places, Roman magic. He watches you over the rim of his cup. Men who rise quickly in the world, as if helped by unseen hands. Your pulse quickens. First Sir William, then Brother Thomas, now this foreign merchant, all hinting at knowledge of the orb, or things like it. Is your secret spreading beyond your control? Just tales, you say dismissively. People always invent fancies to explain others' success. Rick smiles thinly. Of course, just tales. He drains his cup and stands. But remember, Master Fletcher, in changing times, friends are valuable. Those who share certain experiences might do well to stand together. Before you can respond to this cryptic remark, he bows slightly and departs, leaving you to wonder if he was simply fishing for information, or if he truly knows something about the orb and its power. The journey home the next day is cold and miserable, sleep stinging your face as your horse picks its way carefully along the rooted road. But your discomfort is overshadowed by growing unease about the conversations of recent weeks. Too many people seem to know or suspect something about the orb. Your secret, the foundation of your newfound prosperity, feels increasingly vulnerable as you crest the final hill and see your stone house in the valley below, smoke rising steadily from its chimneys. Despite the foul weather, a strange sensation washes over you. For just a moment, superimposed on this familiar scene, you see the old farmhouse, the humble timber structure where you lived as a tenant farmer, where the orb first revealed itself to you. The vision is gone in a heartbeat, leaving you blinking in confusion. A trick of the mind, surely. A memory intruding on the present. Yet, the brief overlap between past and present leaves you shaken, wondering if the boundaries between what was and what is are somehow thinning as the eclipse approaches. Home at last, warmed by fire and food and family, you try to push these worries aside. Whatever comes with the eclipse, you'll face it together, as you and Eliza have faced every challenge life has thrown at you. But that night, as winter wind howls around the eaves of your stone house, you dream of the orb again. In the dream, its golden light pulses stronger, more insistent, like a heart beating faster in anticipation or alarm. And deep within that light, you fancy you can see shapes moving, scenes playing out, glimpses of possibilities, of paths not taken, of choices yet to be made. You wake with the absolute certainty that something is coming, something that will test the new life you've built even more profoundly than the challenges you've already faced. The eclipse is 1 week away. The orb is awakening. And whatever happens next will determine not just your fate, but perhaps the fate of many others as well. The day of the eclipse dawns cold and clear, the winter sun rising into a sky of perfect pale blue. Frost glitters on bare branches and thatched roofs like scattered diamonds. Your breath hangs in the air as you stand in the doorway of your stone house, watching the village below come to life. Yuletide preparations are in full swing across the countryside. The 12 days of Christmas are the brightest spot in the dark Tudor winters, a time when even the poorest households feast as best they can, when work ceases and community bonds are renewed through shared celebration. Your own home is filled with the rich sense of spiced wine, baking bread, and pine boughs brought in to decorate the hall. As a prosperous merchant, you're expected to show hospitality beyond what ordinary villages might offer, a responsibility Eliza takes seriously, directing servants in the kitchen with the same quiet efficiency she once applied to your humble farmhouse. The eclipse begins at midday, Tom reminds you, appearing at your side with a steaming cup of mulled ale. Half the village plans to watch from the churchyard. You nod. accepting the cup gratefully. The eclipse, a darkening of the sun in mid-inter, an event rare enough to inspire both wonder and fear in the Tudor mind. And according to Brother Thomas, the moment when the orb's power will return in full. Will you join them? Tom asks. Or no? You decide. I'll watch from here, from the counting room, where the orb is hidden, where you can see what happens when darkness briefly claims the winter sun. Tom studies your face, understanding more than you've explicitly told him. Shall I keep the household busy elsewhere? Make sure you're not disturbed. Please, you agree, grateful for his discretion. In this timeline, Tom knows you found something unusual in your old farm field, something that changed your fortunes, but he doesn't know the full truth. How completely the orb transformed your lives, jumping you across 3 years of time. Only Eliza shares that knowledge, that experience. Only she fully understands what might happen when the orb awakens again. As the morning progresses, you find yourself growing increasingly restless. Twice you check the orb, finding its glow slightly stronger each time, though still far from the brilliant radiance it once possessed. The pulse at its center beats a little faster, a little more insistently, as if counting down to something inevitable. You're like a cat before a thunderstorm, Eliza observes, as you pace the hall, unable to settle to any task. Everyone can see something's troubling you. I can't help it, you admit. I feel like we're balanced on the edge of a cliff, like everything might change again today. She takes your hands, her touch calming as always. Whatever happens, we face it together as we did before. You squeeze her fingers gratefully. I've been thinking about Brother Thomas, about what he said, that the orb will awaken during the eclipse. Yes, but more than that, you lower your voice, though the children are outside watching the cook prepare the ool log, and the servants are busy with their tasks. He suggested the orb might have its own purpose, that it might ask something of us, rather than the other way around. Eliza frowns slightly. You think it's more than just a tool? That it has will of its own? I don't know. You shake your head, struggling to articulate feelings that are more intuition than reasoned thought. But think about it. Why was it buried in our field? Why did we find it when we did? Why did it send us to exactly this moment in time, when the monasteries are about to fall and everything in England is changing? Coincidence, perhaps, she suggests, though she doesn't sound convinced. Perhaps. Or perhaps the orb has been waiting for the right moment, the right people. You meet her gaze directly for us. Before she can respond, Agnes bursts in from outside, her cheeks red with cold and excitement. Papa riders coming, important ones, with fine horses. Your first thought is of Brother Thomas. Has he brought others to see the orb during the eclipse? But when you step outside, you see these are not monks or scholars, but men of wealth and position by their dress and bearing. 5 riders approaching your house, led by a figure you recognize with a shock of dismay. Sir William Hertford, Master Fletcher, he calls as they enter your yard. Unlike at the Michaelmas fair, he seems entirely sober today, his voice commanding rather than slurred. Forgive the unannounced visit. We come on matters of some urgency. You bow, mind racing. Who are these men with him? What urgency brings them to your door on the day of the eclipse? Sir William, you honor my humble home. You gesture toward the door. Please enter and warm yourselves. The day is cold. Inside, Eliza has already directed servants to bring wine and bread for the unexpected guests. Her face is composed, revealing nothing of the concern you know she must feel. The visitors remove their cloaks and gloves, revealing rich doublets and jewelry that mark them as men of substance. Sir William makes brief introductions. Merchants from London, a scholar from Oxford, a gentleman whose name carries the weight of court connections. We've come about a matter of antiquities, Sir William says. Once formalities are observed and wine poured, specifically Roman artifacts rumored to have been found in this region, your pulse quickens, but you keep your expression neutral. Antiquities. I fear I know little of such things, being a simple wool merchant. Simple. One of the London merchants raises an eyebrow. Your rise has been remarkable, Master Fletcher, from tenant farmer to prosperous trader in less than 5 years. Most unusual. There it is again. That hint of suspicion, that suggestion that your success is somehow unnatural. You're about to offer your standard explanation of hard work and fortunate opportunities when there's another commotion at the door. Brother Thomas enters, snow dusting his threadbare cloak, his thin face flushed with cold and agitation. He stops short at the sight of the assembled company. I see I'm not the first to arrive, he says, his voice carefully controlled, though perhaps my purpose differs from these gentlemen's. Sir William's expression hardens. Brother Thomas, or just Thomas now, I understand. The abbot mentioned you'd been relieved of your duties. A matter of theological disagreement, the former monk replies stiffly. The tension in the room is palpable. Eliza moves to your side, her presence both support and warning. The children, sensing the strange atmosphere, have retreated to the far corner of the hall, watching wide-eyed. Perhaps, you suggest with forced calm, someone might explain why my home has suddenly become a gathering place for such distinguished visitors, and on Ule-tide, no less. The Oxford scholar steps forward, a thin man with intelligent eyes and ink-stained fingers. We represent a society, Master Fletcher, scholars and gentlemen interested in unusual phenomena, historical artifacts with particular properties. The orbs, Brother Thomas says bluntly. They're speaking of the orbs, Fletcher. As you well know, a heavy silence falls outside. The light has begun to change. As the eclipse commences, a subtle dimming, as if clouds were passing before the sun, though the sky remains clear. I don't know what you're talking about. You insist. But your denial sounds hollow, even to your own ears, don't you? Sir William pulls something from his doublet, a small cloth-wrapped object that he places on your table and carefully unwraps. It's a fragment of crystal, identical to the one the abbot showed you all those months ago. Part of a broken orb. My grandfather found this, Sir William explains, in 1451 on his estate in Kent. It changed his fortunes dramatically until it shattered. The family has been seeking another ever since. The Oxford scholar produces a small book bound in faded leather. Records exist of at least 7 such objects found across England over the centuries, always Roman in origin, always bringing dramatic change to those who possess them, and always, adds the court gentleman, speaking for the first time, of great interest to the crown, especially in times of transition. The implications are clear. These men, powerful, connected, knowledgeable, want the orb. They've traced it to you, though how remains unclear, and they have the means to take it by force or legal authority if necessary. Brother Thomas moves to stand beside you, surprising you with this apparent alliance. The orb chooses its keeper, he says firmly. It came to Fletcher for a reason. Its power is not yours to claim. Then let Master Fletcher speak for himself, Sir Williams suggests. Turning to you, do you deny having found such an artifact? Do you deny that it transformed your fortunes through means beyond natural explanation? All eyes turn to you. The room has darkened noticeably now as the eclipse progresses. Through the window, You can see the strange filtered light casting unusual shadows across the winter landscape. In this moment of decision, you feel a sudden warmth at your chest. The small pouch you've taken to wearing, beneath your clothing containing a single coin, the Roman coin you found in the field that day, the first hint of the treasure buried there. It grows hot against your skin, as if responding to the proximity of the orb hidden above. And with that warmth comes clarity. These men, for all their power and knowledge, don't understand the orb's true nature. They see it as a tool, a means to wealth and influence. But you've experienced its deeper purpose, not just to enrich, but to place people where they need to be in the great turning of history's wheel. I found something you acknowledge finally in my field 3 years ago, something that changed my life. You look each man in the eye in turn, but it's not what you think, not a simple tool to be used for personal gain. The Oxford scholar leans forward eagerly. Then what? What is its true nature? Before you can answer, a strange light begins to fill the room, not from the windows or the fire, but from above, from the direction of your counting room, where the orb lies hidden. Golden radiance streams through the cracks in the floorboards, growing stronger by the moment. Outside, the eclipse has reached its peak, the sun now a dark circle, ringed with fire in the winter sky. But inside your hall, day seems to have dawned anew, cast in unearly gold. It's awakening, Brother Thomas whispers, his face transformed with wonder, just as the ancient texts foretold during the eclipse. When darkness and light are balanced, the visitors stare in awe at the light pouring from above. Sir William is the first to recover, starting toward the stairs that lead to your counting room. Wait, you command, your voice stronger than you intended. To your surprise, he stops, turning back with an expression of confusion, as if uncertain why he's obeying. The orb is not yours to claim, you tell him, echoing Brother Thomas's words, but with new conviction. It came to me for a purpose I'm only now beginning to understand. As if in response to your words, the golden light intensifies. The coin against your chest grows hotter still, almost painful, and then, like water breaking through a dam, understanding floods your mind. The orb didn't just give you wealth and status as a reward for finding it. It elevated you to this position at this specific moment in history because something is about to happen, something that requires someone of your particular background, someone who knows both poverty and prosperity, who understands both the monastery's power and the common people's struggles. The dissolution is coming, you say, the words emerging from some deeper knowledge the orb seems to have planted within you. The monasteries will fall. Land that has belonged to the church for centuries will pass to new hands. The court gentleman looks startled. How could you know this? The king's plans are not yet public. You ignore the question, continuing as if compelled. When that happens, thousands of tenant farmers will face uncertainty. New landlords, new rents, new rules. Some will prosper under the change. Many will suffer. The golden light pulses in rhythm with your words, as if confirming each statement. Unless you continue the orb's purpose, becoming clearer with each moment. Someone who understands their plight is in position to help. Someone who can influence how those lands are distributed, how those people are treated. You turn to Sir William, to the London merchants, to the court gentlemen, men with connections, with influence. That's why the orb brought me here. Not just to save my own family, but to remember where I came from, to speak for those who have no voice when the great changes come. Brother Thomas is nodding, his eyes bright with understanding. a witness, a bridge between worlds. More than that, Eliza says, stepping forward to take your hand, a guide for what comes next. The eclipse is beginning to wane outside, the sun emerging gradually from shadow, but the orb's light continues to fill the room, wrapping each person present in its golden glow. One by one, you see something change in the visitors' faces, hostility and greed giving way to thoughtfulness, to something like awe. Whatever power the orb possesses, it's affecting them too, opening their minds to possibilities beyond simple self-interest. What would you have us do? The Oxford scholar asks quietly. Join me, you reply, the answer coming naturally. Not to possess the orb or use its power directly, but to form a fellowship of sorts, men and women of influence, who remember the common good when great changes come, who ensure that power, when it changes hands, falls at least partly to those who will use it wisely. It's an audacious proposal. You, a former tenant farmer, asking these powerful men to follow your lead. Yet in this moment, with the orb's light binding you all together, it doesn't seem impossible. Sir William is the first to respond. My family has sought another orb for generations, he says slowly, but perhaps we misunderstood its purpose. Perhaps it's not meant to be possessed, but served. I've studied these artifacts for years, Brother Thomas adds, yet I never considered they might have agency of their own, a plan spanning centuries. The court gentleman looks most troubled, most resistant. The king would want this power for himself, he murmurs. And what would he do with it? You challenge gently, add more wealth to his coffers, more land to his holdings, or might it serve England better in many hands, guiding many decisions, large and small? He has no immediate answer. As the eclipse ends completely, the orb's light begins to fade, retreating back through the floorboards until the hall is lit only by natural daylight and the fire once more. But something has changed in the room, some connection forged between the people present that wasn't there before. The eclipse is over, the Oxford scholar observes, but I suspect our real work is just beginning. Over the next few hours, an extraordinary conversation unfolds in your hall. The visitors, no longer hostile or grasping, discuss with growing animation how they might use their various positions to influence the coming changes in England. So, William speaks of the fair treatment for tenants when monastery lands are sold. The London merchants consider how trade might be structured to benefit more than just the wealthy few. The court gentleman, still cautious but engaged, hints at ways royal policy might be subtly guided. Brother Thomas watches it all with the air of a man seeing prophecy fulfilled. The ancient texts spoke of this, he tells you quietly, as the others debate, of gatherings where the orb's light would open minds long closed. I never truly understood until now. As twilight approaches, the visitors prepare to depart, each with a new purpose, a new understanding. They will return. They promise to share information, to coordinate efforts, to ensure that the great upheaval coming to England brings as much good as possible, alongside the inevitable disruption. After they've gone, you climb the stairs to your counting room, alone. The orb sits on your desk, removed from its hiding place during the eclipse's peak by some power you don't fully understand. Its light has dimmed to a gentle glow once more, but there's a quality to it that suggests contentment, completion. You touch it gently, feeling the now familiar warmth spread through your fingers. Was this your plan all along? You ask softly, to bring us here, to this moment, to these people. The orb pulses once brightly, then settles back to its gentle glow. Answer enough. Eliza finds you there, as darkness falls completely outside. The winter stars emerging in a sky of deepest blue. She carries a candle, though she hardly needs it, with the orb's light filling the small room. What happens now? She asks, coming to stand beside you at the desk. I'm not entirely sure, you admit. But I think we've done what the orb brought us here to do. Started something that will continue long after today. She studies the glowing sphere. Will it stay with us, or move on to someone else who needs its guidance? I don't know. You cover the orb with its cloth, watching the golden light filter through the fabric. But I think its greatest work through us is complete, and if it leaves, there's a hint of worry in her voice. Will we lose everything we've gained? Return to what we were. You shake your head confidently. No. What we've built here is real now. Solid. Our position, our wealth, our connections, they exist in the world, not just through the orb's magic. You take her hand. We've changed, Eliza. Grown into these new roles. They're truly ours now. Whether the orb stays or goes, she smiles, relief evident in her face. Good, because I've grown rather fond of having glass windows and enough food on the table. You laugh, the tension of the day finally breaking. As have I. As have I. That night, your household celebrates Ula-tide with a feast far richer than anything you could have imagined in your previous life. The hall is warm and bright, filled with the sounds of music and laughter. Agnes and Edward play with gifts more elaborate than the simple wooden toys of their past. A miniature lute, a set of carved animals with real fur manes. Tom raises a toast to a prosperous year ahead. The servants sing carols as they serve the food. Even the cat seems content, purring by the fire with a belly full of scraps from the kitchen. Later, when the house has quieted and the children sleep, you and Eliza stand at the window of your chamber, looking out at the winter night. Snow has begun to fall, large flakes drifting lazily through the still air, gradually transforming the landscape into a blanket of pristine white. Do you ever miss it? Eliza asks softly. The old life, the simplicity of it. You consider the question honestly sometimes. Not the cold, or the hunger, or the constant worry, but the directness of it. Knowing exactly what needed doing each day. Working with my hands in the soil. She nods. I understand. Though I can't say I miss washing clothes in the stream in winter. You both laugh quietly, remembering for all that your lives have changed. Your shared history remains the foundation upon which everything else is built. Whatever comes next, you say, watching the snow transform your new world. We've been given a great gift, not just prosperity, but purpose, a chance to help others as we've been helped, a good legacy to leave our children. Eliza agrees, leaning against your shoulder. As you stand there in comfortable silence, you think about the journey that brought you here, from desperate tenant farmer to prosperous merchant, from the monastery's control to a position of influence in your own right, from a man who could barely feed his family to one who helps shape the future of his country, all because of a glowing orb buried for centuries in a turnip field, waiting for the right moment, the right person to bring its light into the world again. Outside, the snow continues to fall, covering both great houses and humble cottages with the same gentle blanket. In mansions and hovels alike, people sleep, dream, hope for better days ahead. And perhaps because of what began in your counting room today, some of those hopes will be realized in ways no one could have predicted. The great wheel of history turns relentless as the seasons. Kings rise and fall, institutions flourish and decay, But through it all, ordinary people live their lives, finding moments of joy and sorrow, struggle and triumph in equal measure. Your eyelids grow heavy as you watch the snow, the warmth of the room, and the lateness of the hour drawing you towards sleep. As you and Eliza finally turn from the window and settle into your bed, you carry with you a profound sense of gratitude, not just for the material comfort surrounding you, but for the opportunity to make a difference in a world so often indifferent to the fate of common folk. The last thing you see before drifting off is a faint golden glow from the direction of your counting room. The orb's light, a gentle reminder of powers beyond ordinary understanding, of connections that span centuries, of possibilities yet to unfold in the ever-changing tapestry of human experience. As sleep claims you at last, your final conscious thought is that perhaps the greatest miracle of all is not what the orb gave you, but what it awakened within you, the capacity to grow, to adapt, to rise beyond the limitations of birth and circumstance. And somewhere in that warm, comforting darkness, between waking and dreaming, between past and future, between one breath and the next, you find peace. This